Welcome to the ARRL Media Internet Broadcast Network.
You are listening to Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a podcast about Linux, open source, and amateur radio, for everyone. Now here are your hosts, Cheryl, W5MOO, Russ, K5TUX, and Bill, NE4RD.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome. You have tuned in to episode number 595 of Linux in the Ham Shack, the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll be doing a short topics episode this time around. But before we jump into our short topics for the evening, we'll introduce ourselves. For the On Assignment Cheryl, W5MOO, I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD.
All right, so the usual suspects. I guess I will lead off tonight with our first amateur radio topic because, hey, why not? I think that's sort of the way the topics work out. So hopefully I'm doing this right. But anyway, I think I can get through this first one. So the first one here is one we've talked about. I don't know how many times this has come around now. 75, 80, something like that?
Well, they're on a big campaign right now. So if you haven't received 1,000 emails.
Right. Aren't they on a big campaign like every time this comes around? But, all right, so we'll talk about it anyway. The ARRL has launched another nationwide grassroots campaign to pass Amateur Radio Emergency Preparedness Act. I don't know if it changes names every time they talk about it, but it's always the same thing. The ARRL has launched a nationwide grassroots campaign aimed at securing the passage of federal legislation that would grant amateur radio operators the same rights to install antennas on their property as those enjoyed by users of TV antennas, wireless internet, and flagpoles. But honestly, don't HOAs restrict all of those things? I mean, really?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. You get into one of those ones that are just like super oppressive. But anyway, the campaign announced in an ARRL member bulletin on September 17th follows the reintroduction of the, see, right there. It's right there in the text. Reintroduction of the Amateur Radio Emergency Preparedness Act in February 2025. The bipartisan bills are designed to, boy, it's one of those nights. The bipartisan bills are designed to prevent restrictive HOA rules that currently prohibit or severely limit the installation of amateur radio antennas, even when such antennas are hidden in trees, placed in attics, mounted on vehicles, or look like flagpoles. To advance the legislation, the ARRL is calling on its members and all licensees of the U.S. Amateur Radio Service to take action by sending letters to their congressional representatives. Through a dedicated online tool, hams can easily generate and submit pre-drafted letters with a few clicks. The ARRL has emphasized that every letter matters. Quote, your representative and senators need to know that the passage of this legislation is important to you. This happens with every bill that goes before any kind of government agency. But yes, they will happily discard your form letters just like all the rest of them. But we should not... we should not try, at least, right? Maybe the 81st time this comes up, it will pass. And you'll be able
possible.
to... It's possible. And you'll be able to build a 200-foot tower in your front yard.
So, yeah, probably not, but they can at least get it through. I mean, at least they can say they've done something. I mean, if we had our, resident ARRL, not hater, but talk about this, they'd probably say this is just, the ARRL trying to, stay relevant as their membership is slowly dwindling.
Severely flagging, pun intended. All right. So anyway, the source from this, as you might guess, is the ARRL. And if you want to submit one of those form letters to your representative or senator, a link to that will also be in the show notes. So there you go. All right, so let's talk about something more interesting. DXpeditions.
Yeah, the gear is packed for the 3 Yankee 0 Kilo DXpedition to Bouvet in February 2026. The 3Y0K DXpedition to Bouvet Island has packed its shipping container of gear. The team spent the weekend near Oslo, Norway, getting things ready, including generators, tents, tools, and, most importantly, radios, antennas, and amplifiers. This checks off another large box on the to-do list before they depart in February of next year. This international team of radio amateurs is aiming to activate the number 10 most wanted DX entity, Bouvet Island, in February 2026. With 24 operators, 2 camps, and a load of gear, they hope to provide a lot of QSOs for those who need the entity for their DXCC totals. Bouvet is in the South Atlantic Ocean, 1,600 miles from Cape Town, South Africa, and 1,000 miles north of the continental Antarctica. And this came from the ARRL, and I mean, most of you probably know that this they went to Bouvet in 2023. They only made 7,000 contacts because they had to pull out early due to the changing weather. And we just never know what's going to happen with this particular DXpedition. Hopefully, they'll have some success and be able to get their gear actually up fully and run. So the last one was, I think, 3 Yankee 0 Juliet. So that was the last DXpedition that was done back in 2023.
All right, so get your antennas tuned up to contact Bouvet Island and 3Y0K in February when they come around. Hopefully they'll be able to do a full and complete activation, and everyone will be happy until the next time when 3Y0L. Anyway, all right. So next we have an interesting story, or at least I thought so, which is why I stuck it in here. Equatorial Guinea suspends all ham radio licenses. I don't think I've ever seen Equatorial Guinea on the air. Maybe I have, but I don't know that I have. The Malabo government has decided to temporarily suspend all amateur radio licenses in the country due to irregularities detected in their issuance. The measure seeks to establish a new regulatory framework that guarantees effective control over the use of telecommunications frequency and equipment in line with national security requirements. The measure was taken following the discovery of a case in which a foreign citizen operating as an amateur radio operator accessed sensitive areas such as Anabon and Batete using telecommunications equipment not authorized for his activity. This individual had applied for licenses in 2018 and again in 2025, paying a total of 531,000 CFA francs, which is probably like $40. I have no idea what the conversion on that is. But anyway, without properly verifying the legality of the equipment or the compliance of the assigned frequencies with national regulations. The goal is to ensure that no high-frequency equipment enters the country without proper approval and review of the license. Furthermore, those involved in the case have been ordered to appear in Malabo before Friday, September 12th. Okay, that's a little bit ago, but fine. With all relevant documents, including the equipment approval certificate signed on March 2025 and the corresponding electronic visa. With these actions, the government of Equatorial Guinea reaffirms its commitment to responsible regulation of its telecommunications, consolidating a safer and more transparent environment for all citizens. So with all of that, how come I haven't contacted this guy? He could be all over the airwaves, right?
Yeah, you would think, right?
Because I mean, how many licensees? There's a way to look up how many licensees there are in particular DXCC entities, right? I mean,
occasionally, yeah.
Yeah, how many licensees do we think there are in Equatorial Guinea? 7? I don't know. This story just kind of cracked me up a little bit because I am kind of curious about the 531,000 CFA francs. I'm going to look that up while you're reading the next one. But anyway, that came from a publication called ARRL EG in Equatorial Guinea, and it was also published by DX World. So I guess they're going to crack down on all those rogue operators down there in Equatorial Guinea. So if that's you, look out.
They're coming for you. Yeah. Well, that brings us over to our open source segment. And the first one is one I found here that Hacktoberfest 2025 registration is now open. Hacktoberfest is DigitalOcean's annual event that encourages people to contribute to open source throughout October. So we're coming right up to that. Much of the modern tech infrastructure, including some of DigitalOcean's own products, relies on open source projects built and maintained by passionate people who often don't have the staff or budgets to do much more than keep the project alive. Hacktoberfest is all about giving back to those projects, sharpening skills, and celebrating all things open source, especially the people that make open source so special. Each year, Hacktoberfest gets a new look, but our mission remains the same: getting as many people as possible involved in open source. Thousands of people, coders and non-coders alike, have participated in Hacktoberfest to support the projects they use and love, learn and practice skills that will enhance their careers, and meet new people who love open source as much as they do. So get ready for all of those AI-generated slop pull requests. Oh wait, that wasn't in the story. But I would anticipate a lot of AI slop kind of making its way into some of these projects.
Yeah, I mean, with the proliferation of AI and AI generated code, I mean, it's inevitable pretty much. So, no fear about editorializing, because I think that's pretty much what we do here. So
yeah. It's the way we add commentary to the stories, of course.
Absolutely. And by the way, that amount of money is $950. So that's how much you spent on licensing. Did you go away? Oh,
no, I'm here. Sorry, I just didn't have much to say about that.
Oh, okay. Well, it was more than $40, but also less than a significant amount. So, I don't think Equatorial Guinea is getting rich on amateur radio licensees.
Yeah, probably not.
All right. So the next one actually did sound kind of interesting to me. I found this, I don't know, cruising around. It was on LWN, and then I eventually found another reference to it on Phoronix because, as we all know, LWN is a for-pay service. So I had to go look for a free reference to the story, and I did find one, and here it is. A multi-kernel architecture has been proposed for the Linux kernel, which seems redundant, but it's not really when we get to the story here. Code was open sourced this week and posted to the Linux kernel mailing list as an RFC for a multi-kernel architecture. This proposal could allow for multiple independent kernel instances coexisting on a single physical machine. Each kernel could run on dedicated CPU cores while sharing underlying hardware resources. This could also allow for some complex use cases, such as real-time kernels running on select cores. Kong Wong of Multi-Kernel Technologies Incorporated announced the open source patches for the Linux kernel. Details on the multi-kernel code going open source can be found via their blog post announcement on multikernel.io, along with more background information on this multi-kernel architecture effort. Kong Wong explains, quote, "The multi-kernel architecture provides several key benefits: improve fault isolation between different workloads, enhance security through kernel-level separation, better resource utilization, and potential zero-down kernel update with kernel handover, KHO, or KO. This work enables new use cases such as running real-time kernels alongside general-purpose kernels, isolating security-critical applications, and providing dedicated kernel instances for specific workloads, etc." End quote. Already in response, some have commented to similarly experimenting with running multiple kernels at once on x86 hardware, but that it may be difficult advancing it beyond a proof-of-concept stage due to various complexities. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Kernel isolation per core. It sounds like it could have some uses. I don't, for day-to-day lay people using computers, probably not. But for security-minded folks, you could have Dockers running on separate cores, and isolate those cores to particular instances so there's no crosstalk between them or potential for passing data back and forth. Another way to sandbox things, I guess. So I can see a use.
Yeah, I mean, on the surface, it kind of reminded me of like the GNU Herd project, but I guess the Herd's a slightly different because it uses like microkernels for interprocess control and stuff like that. But yeah, it's sort of kind of rang that bell for me, but I guess they're not quite the same. I'm sure somebody's gonna send us hate mail. Please send us hate mail that I'm stupid.
All right. Well, I thought that was interesting. It sounds interesting. I guess it's an RFC stage right now, posted on a mailing list or whatever, and I guess we'll see if it gains any traction.
Yeah, sounds interesting. Well, this next one is a release. This is Rust. Rust are for friendly crustaceans out there. Rust 1.19.0 has been released. The Rust team is happy to announce a new version of Rust 1.90.0. Rust is a programming language empowering everyone to build reliable and efficient software. If you have a previous version of Rust installed via RustUp, you can just get 1.90.0 with RustUp Update Stable. So there you go. If you don't have it already, you can get RustUp from the appropriate page on their website and check out the detailed release notes for 1.90.0. I hope I don't have to say that again. In this version, LLD is now the default linker on x86_64 unknown Linux GNU. The target will now use the LLD linker for linking Rust crates by default. This should result in improved linking performance versus the default Linux linker, BFD, particularly for large binaries with a lot of debug information, and for incremental rebuilds. In the vast majority of cases, LLD should be backwards compatible with BFD, and you should not see any differences other than reduced compilation time. However, if you do run into any new linker issues, you can always opt out using the -C, uppercase C, linker features equals -LLD compiler flag. If you encounter any issues with the LLD linker, please let us know, and you can read more about the switch to LLD, some benchmark numbers, and the opt-out mechanism here, which would be on the Rust blog. Cargo adds native support for workspace publishing. Additional stabilized APIs have been added. The Darwin kernel has been demoted to a Tier 2 target. Tier 3 MUSL targets are now linked dynamically by default. And this came to us from the Rust blog. And I think they also added garbage collection too. At least I might have read that somewhere. Because I did see this story somewhere else. But maybe I'm thinking about something else. So I see so many articles throughout the day. But yeah, another update to Rust. That's always a good thing, especially if it's going to improve compiling time, because that's something that I hear a lot of people complain about when they're working on Rust projects.
Yep, I'm not versed in Rust yet. It's one of the things I aim to learn a little bit more about. There's so many languages out there, but of course Rust is super cool now because they're actually programming the Linux kernel in Rust, or at least parts of it, and it's everybody's hot go-to. So I should be able to get my, AI of choice to generate some Rust code that I can peruse, right? I mean, that's what it's for, right?
Yeah, of course.
You don't have to learn anything anymore. You just say, I need to do this thing in Rust, and then I get code.
Yeah, or you just take an existing program and say, rewrite this in Rust. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. I'll be doing that next. No, I would actually like to learn Rust. I kind of gather it's not that difficult. With any sort of modern, I'm assuming it's object oriented because anything modern is, right? So most modern object oriented programming languages have many similarities, so they're usually not that hard to dive into.
Yeah, it's something I think you can pick up. There's some just nuances to the syntax and how you implement mutability and immutability and a bunch of other little weird things. All the stuff that makes it memory safe and stuff like that.
All right, very good. Worth a look anyway. So that brings us down to some Linux in the Ham Shack topics, and I will just talk a little bit about this first one. Did you see the email we got about this?
No, I did not.
I believe he sent it to info, and I don't remember the gentleman's name, but we will be talking about it in a future episode. I just wanted to make a point that he contacted us about taking a look at a new distribution he's putting out that's amateur radio related and also specifically designed for digital communication. He's titled it ArcOS Linux. I have not looked at it yet. I did check out the ISO. It's like an almost 5 gigabyte ISO. I didn't even bother to find out what it's based on or
Linux
any
Mint.
of the details. It is Linux Mint, okay. And so he's asked us to look at it and either comment privately to him or to review it on the show. And I am go to check it out and do some, show topic on it. I don't know if that will be in the, Linux in the Ham Shack segment of a short topic, or if it will actually be a deep dive. I guess it depends on how good we find it to be. But I wanted to put a heads up here that if you want to check out ArcOS Linux, it is a ham radio centric distribution. I'm going to be looking at it. Bill, I guess you can check it out too, as you like to hop and stuff, and you have VMs aplenty. Yep. So we'll be taking a look at this, and just a heads up for a future episode, look out for our review, I guess, if you will, of ArcOS Linux. And I'll let you read the text of this next one, and then I have a question for you, something that we looked at Hamvention.
Oh, yeah, sure. This is a SkyRoof satellite tracker. Most hams using satellites will rely on some software to help track them, which is where this new program from Alex VE3NEA comes in. I won't butcher his last name. The open source application is called SkyRoof and provides a number of layers of information about satellites aggregated into a single information feed. A waterfall diagram is central to the display, with not only the satellite communications shown on the plot, but the information about the satellites themselves. With not only the satellite communications shown on the plot, but information about the satellites themselves. I just didn't say that right. From there, the user can choose between a number of other layers of information about the satellites, including their current path, future path prediction, and a few different ways of displaying all of this information. The software also interfaces with radios via cat control and can even automatically correct for Doppler shift that is so often found in satellite radio communications. For any ham actively engaged in satellite tracking or space-based repeater communications, this tool is certainly worth trying out. Unfortunately, it's only available for Windows currently. For those not looking to operate under Microsoft's thumb, projects such as Dragon OS do a good job of collecting up the must-have Linux programs for hams and other radio enthusiasts, and apparently ArcOS too, possibly.
Possibly, yes.
And I'm assuming this is your note here. So this came from Hackaday, and we have a link to the GitHub page, and I'll let you talk about your try here.
Okay, so the first thing I did was find out what this was. It said it was open source, so I was like, I'll go ahead and try it. So I downloaded the installation file, and of course it's an EXE, and I was like, So I went to GitHub where it is hosted, and it is in fact open source. It is licensed under the AGPL v3. So then I noticed, since it's a Windows binary, I wanted to find out if it could run on Linux. And on my Magic Manjaro distribution, I did a PA Mac install wine and wine-mono, and then ran it, wine skyroof.exe. It downloaded all the dependencies and fired up just fine. So it will run under Wine in Linux. And I had no issues with it whatsoever. I have not tried to connect it under Wine using cat control to see if I could actually get an SDR to listen to a satellite or get any information from an SDR through Wine. That's not something I had time to do today, but I'm definitely going to try it because I'd be curious. But if you want to run an open source satellite tracker that is not gpredict, you can try this. It will run under Windows, of course, and you'll have all your radio configuration and whatnot. And again, if you just want to see the data, you can do that under Linux as well, using the Wine envelope. My question was, this has the linear azimuth tracker for satellites, and there was an application at Hamvention you were using that did the same thing. Do you remember what that was? It showed like a time slider of...
Yeah, what was... I can't remember what that was called. I want to find that again. No. I will look at my notes. I know I wrote it down somewhere, and I have it in an email or something like that. And that's a cool piece of software. We should definitely highlight that on the show here in the future. But I've actually installed SkyRoof as well. And I had some odd performance issues with it as soon as I started doing the SDR decode side of things. So I don't know if that's just an issue with running it inside of Wine, and maybe that's not quite as optimized path. I think I used the either RTL TCP or I used Spy Server as the actual connection to the SDR. But I did give some weird weird Windows-y problems of it staying connected to the SDR, and sometimes drawing would have a problem drawing that waterfall and stuff like that. So I wasn't. I kind of started doing a small video on it, and then I kind of ran into those problems. So as with everything, I just stop and I don't come back to it because I'm doing other stuff. But yeah, you can definitely run it. As soon as you get to the SDR side, I think you'll kind of run into some complications. And I think the cat control, there was something weird about the cat control too. I can't remember if, it wouldn't connect to like a networked port for some reason with the way they implemented it. It really wanted to use a COM port. And because I was using bottles, and I really haven't messed around with the COM ports too much in bottles, although it's still running wine, so I should be able to just put the COM ports in there and link them across the systems. But yeah, there's a few little areas that it gets a little sticky. It would be nice if this was actually something that could be compiled in Windows. Hopefully, I haven't looked at the code at all, so I'm assuming they have all that there, but it's probably running WinForms or something silly.
Okay. Well, it would definitely be worth looking at a little further and maybe even getting in touch with a developer and having them come on and talk about it or something at some point. I'd be interested to know more about it and see what his plans for the future are. And if there are some performance issues, maybe we can hammer that out with him. By the way, the previous story was ARC OS, ARC, like Amateur Radio Communication OS, not ARC, ARK. Just to be clear. Of course, links will be in there for that. But yeah, so this might be interesting. I think it's written in C#. So I didn't actually look at the code. I could have done that, but I did not. But I know it installed like the Visual C runtime. So I'm whatever, and .NET. So I think it's C#, but whatever. Bill would have a better handle on C# than I would. So
yeah, it kind of looks like, it's XML. I wonder if this is something that would be useful to
maybe
use
portable.
Avalonia. Use Avalonia instead, and then try to port all this stuff over. Because then I think it might actually be functional. Because I think he's using XML interfaces, so like XAML. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, this could be a good candidate for that. That's for sure.
All right. Well, like I said, maybe we'll get in touch with a developer and see what information we can glean. But anyway, if you want to try out SkyRoof, you can definitely check that out. Link, of course, will be in the show notes, and a link to the story is also in the show notes. And with that, we are down to the end of our topics for tonight. So we'll do our announcements and feedback, and we did not have any feedback that I could see this time around, and our announcements are the usual ones. Please help us out financially if you can over on Patreon, PayPal, buying some merch, and make sure to sign up on YouTube as well. Maybe we'll get monetized over there eventually someday. And you can help us out for as little as less than $2 a month. It's nothing. Not even a cup of coffee. Can't even buy. It's like a third of a cup of coffee anymore. So
yeah.
So anyway, with that, we're down to our new subscribers, supporters, and live participants. And we did record a little bit late tonight, so we only had one live participant, and that's Steve KJ5T. Thanks for hanging out with us real late tonight. We appreciate that. But on the subscriber and supporter front, we didn't have any new subscribers or Patreons, no free Patreons. We did have another a person join us on Twitter, DJT Cybersec, which I looked at the account and it looks legit, but that whole DJT Cybersec thing, just, I don't know, a little sketch. But if you are a real person, thanks for linking to us over there on the Twitters. On Instagram, we had Metalcraft by Design, Hunter Scott 0923, and Gretchen's Bird Nerd. I wonder what they're here for. Over on Mastodon, we had at EPI_mapper, at Tux Daily, and at KK7PBK. Thanks for joining us over on Mastodon. people have been subscribing to us over on YouTube because we're up to like 1,150 subscribers. So obviously they are, but we rarely see who subscribes anymore. So we might just be taking YouTube off the list here. And just know that some folks are joining us over on YouTube. Maybe it's all bots. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
On Discord, we had Mark B. Thanks for joining us over there. Nobody on Blue Sky this time around. Nobody on the mailing list either. And, of course, we already mentioned Steve, but we'll mention him again, KJ5T. So that brings us down to the end of episode number 595 of Linux in the Ham Shack. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting if you do. And otherwise, just keep listening and tell all your friends. We really appreciate it. In the meantime, have a great week, and we hope we'll catch you for the Weekender, which is the next episode next time around. And with that, we're going to get on out of here and let you get back to whatever it was you were doing. So for the On Assignment Cheryl, W5MOO, I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD73.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a community-sponsored podcast. Live recordings are Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Central Time. Our homepage can be found at lhspodcast.info. You can support the podcast via Patreon at patreon.com/LHS podcast. We're also on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Mastodon. Contact us via email at info@lhspodcast.info or via voicemail at 190954777469. That's 1909 LHS show. We also have merch. So until next we meet, remember to always heed your hedonism.